The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with worried voices. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, their various forms creating a strange rainbow of colors and shapes. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with their own inner light. But today, all of them looked scared. Ambassador Zethkri of the Veltar Confederacy stood up slowly. His tall, thin body swayed as he moved, and his forearms gestured dramatically. The room fell silent as he began to speak. "Fellow council members," Zethkri said, his voice shaking with emotion. "We face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. The humans have broken every rule of civilized diplomacy. They have committed an act so violent, so unreasonable, that it threatens the very foundation of galactic peace." A holographic display appeared above the table, showing the wreckage of spaceships floating in the darkness of space. The twisted metal and debris told a story of complete destruction. 3 days ago, Zethkri continued, the humans encountered a Krillian salvage fleet in the Outer Rim territories. Instead of following proper diplomatic procedures, instead of negotiating like civilized beings, they destroyed every single ship. No survivors. No prisoners. No mercy. Gasps echoed around the chamber. The mollusk representatives' tentacles writhed in distress. The crystal beings from Altair dimmed their lights in shock. Even the robotic delegate from the machine worlds made clicking sounds that indicated surprise thought at the far end of the table. Ambassador Sarah Chun sat quietly. She was a middle-aged human woman with graying hair and calm eyes. While the aliens around her showed clear signs of fear and anger, she remained perfectly still. "The Krillians were conducting legitimate business," Zethkri said, his voice getting louder. "Yes, they are aggressive. Yes, they demand tribute from passing ships. But this is how galactic commerce has worked for thousands of years. We pay reasonable fees, they protect trade routes, and everyone benefits." Sarah Chun finally spoke, her voice cutting through the alien chatter like a knife. "Legitimate business?" All eyes turned to her. She stood up slowly, her human form looking small compared to some of the massive alien representatives around her. "Let me tell you what your legitimate business looked like," Sarah said. She activated her own holographic display. The image showed a large civilian ship with the word New Hope painted on its side. This was a colony transport carrying 50,000 human families to establish a farming settlement on Kepler 442b. Families. Ambassador Zethkri. Children. Elderly people. Scientists and teachers and farmers looking for a new home. The hologram changed, showing the same ship torn apart. Its hull breached in dozens of places. "Your Krillian friends didn't just demand tribute," Sarah continued. "They boarded the ship, executed every single person aboard, and then stripped it for salvage. 50,000 innocent civilians murdered in cold blood while trying to start a peaceful colony." The room erupted in nervous chatter. Several aliens began speaking at once in their various languages. "That is unfortunate," Zethkri said, raising one of his 4 hands for silence. "But such incidents are the price of maintaining galactic stability. The Krillians must eat, must maintain their fleets. Sometimes civilian casualties occur. This is regrettable, but unavoidable." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. "Unavoidable?" "Yes," Zethkri replied. "For 3,000 years, my people have paid tribute to the Krillians. Sometimes they take more than we would like. Sometimes ships are lost. But we survive, we prosper, and we avoid the terrible cost of war. This is civilization, Ambassador Chun. This is how intelligent beings solve problems." The mollusk representative spoke up, its translator making its wet, gurgling sounds into words. "The Veltar speak wisdom. Better to lose some ships than entire fleets. Better to pay tribute than face extinction." Other aliens nodded their various heads in agreement. The crystal beings chimed harmoniously. The machine delegate beeped its approval. "You don't understand," the robotic representative said in its electronic voice. "The Krillians have 12,000 warships. 12,000. Your human fleet has perhaps a few hundred vessels. Mathematics does not lie. Resistance equals death." Sarah looked around the table at all the alien faces. Some showed fear, others showed pity for her species' foolishness. None showed understanding. When our response fleet arrived at the massacre site, Sarah said quietly, the Krillians were still there, loading human bodies into their cargo holds for processing. They saw our ships approaching and sent a message demanding we pay triple tribute for daring to enter their space. "And what did you do?" Zethkri asked, though his expression suggested he already feared the answer. "We sent them a message back," Sarah replied. 3 words: surrender or die. The aliens around the table began making distressed sounds again. Several started talking at once about human recklessness and the need for immediate apology and reparations. "They laughed," Sarah continued, ignoring the chatter. The Krillian commander actually laughed. He said no species in galactic history had ever been stupid enough to fight them. He said they would add our ships to their salvage operation. "So you attacked superior numbers?" The crystal being asked, its light flickering with disbelief. "This makes no logical sense." Sarah nodded. "We did." And 47 minutes later, every Krillian ship in that system was destroyed. Every single one. The silence that followed was complete. Not one alien made a sound. Finally, Zethkri spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "How?" "We're very good at fighting," Sarah said simply. The Veltar ambassador stood up straighter, all 4 of his arms gesturing wildly. "This cannot stand. The Krillians will want revenge. They will bring their entire fleet against human space. You have doomed your species and possibly destabilized the entire galaxy." "Perhaps," Sarah agreed. "But we will not negotiate with murderers. We will not pay tribute to pirates. We will not reward the slaughter of innocents with trade agreements and diplomatic immunity. Then you will all die." "Zethkri," shouted Sarah Chun, looked around the table one more time, meeting the eyes of each alien representative. Her expression was calm, almost sad. "Maybe," she said. "But we would rather die fighting than live on our knees paying protection money to the creatures that murder our children." The chamber fell silent again as the aliens struggled to understand this alien concept. In their experience, survival was everything. Honor was a luxury that living beings could not afford. Sarah gathered her papers and prepared to leave. The Galactic Council may continue its policy of appeasing murderers if it chooses. Humanity will not. As she walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber, every alien representative watched her go. They were thinking the same thing. The humans were either the bravest species in the galaxy, or the most foolish. Time would tell which was true. Dr. Velana pressed her 6-fingered hands against her temples as she read the latest intelligence reports. As the galaxy's leading expert on species psychology, she had been asked to analyze humanity's bizarre behavior. What she found made no sense according to everything science knew about intelligent life. "Impossible," she whispered to herself, staring at the data streams flowing across her screen. Her assistant, a young Altarian named Brightstar Wisdom, floated closer. The crystal being's internal light pulsed with curiosity. "What troubles you, Doctor?" "These humans," Velana said, turning to face her colleague. "They're completely different from every other species we've studied. Look at this evolutionary history." She activated a holographic display showing various alien worlds. Images of different species appeared, each showing how they had developed over millions of years. Every intelligent species in the galaxy evolved the same way, Velana explained, pointing to the images. My people, the Veltar, evolved from small tree creatures that survived by hiding from predators. When threatened, we learned to negotiate, to offer tribute, to submit until the danger passed. The display showed a series of rabbit-like creatures slowly developing intelligence. While hiding in underground burrows, the mollusks evolved from ocean bottom dwellers who survived. By making themselves useful to larger creatures, they became the galaxy's greatest diplomats because their ancestors lived by serving others. More images appeared, showing slug-like beings that had learned to clean parasites from large sea monsters in exchange for protection. Even the machine worlds were built by species that preferred calculation and logic over direct confrontation. Valana continued. Every single spacefaring civilization learned the same lesson. Survival comes through cooperation, submission, and avoiding conflict. Bright Star Wisdom's light dimmed thoughtfully. But humans are different? Completely different, Valana said, her voice filled with amazement. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They were never prey animals. They never learned to submit to anything. For millions of years, they were the apex predators on their world. The display changed, showing primitive humans chasing massive animals across vast plains. The images showed humans working together to bring down creatures 10 times their size. Look at this, Valana said, highlighting specific data. When faced with danger, every other species' first instinct is to negotiate or flee. Humans' first instinct is to fight. It's literally programmed into their DNA. She brought up more recent data, showing human colonies spread across dozens of star systems. Since entering space, they've encountered the same threats we all face. Krillian raiders, Zephyrian slavers, mollusk pirates. But instead of developing tribute relationships, they've been systematically destroying them. Bright Star Wisdom pulsed with alarm. All of them? Every single one, Valana confirmed. 3 weeks ago, a Zephyrian slave fleet targeted a human mining station. The Zephyrians have been taking slaves from that sector for centuries. Everyone pays the flesh tribute to keep them satisfied. What did the humans do? They tracked the slavers back to their home base and destroyed the entire operation. Not just the ships, the entire infrastructure. Then they freed every slave they found and returned them to their home worlds. The crystal being's light flickered rapidly, indicating extreme confusion. But why? The cost must have been enormous. The time, the resources, the risk of retaliation. That's exactly what I don't understand, Valana said. From an evolutionary perspective, their behavior is completely irrational. They're spending massive resources to fight threats they could easily appease. They're taking huge risks for people who aren't even their own species. She pulled up another file, this one showing military reports from across the galaxy. The Thrakari death cult attacked a human passenger liner last month. The humans didn't just fight back. They traced the cult's entire network and eliminated every single cell. The Thrakari had been operating for 2,000 years, taking tribute in the form of honorable deaths from dozens of species. And now? They don't exist anymore, Valana said simply. The humans wiped them out completely. Bright Star Wisdom dimmed to almost complete darkness, indicating deep distress. The other species must be terrified. If humans can destroy ancient powers like the Thrakari, they can destroy anyone. That's the strangest part, Valana said. The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They only target groups that prey on civilians. They've never attacked a legitimate government or tried to conquer territory. They seem to make a clear distinction between threats and non-threats. She brought up diplomatic communications between humans and various galactic governments. They've offered protection agreements to 17 different species. Not conquest, not tribute demands, just protection. And the terms are incredibly generous. The crystal being slowly began to glow again. What do they want in return? Technology sharing, mostly. Scientific cooperation. Trade agreements. Nothing that would harm their partners. Valana shook her head in amazement. It's as if they actually want to help other species instead of exploiting them. A communication alert chimed, and a new message appeared on Valana's screen. Her 6 eyes widened as she read it. What is it? Bright Star Wisdom asked. The Voltar Confederacy just redirected their entire annual tribute budget. Valana said, her voice filled with wonder. For the first time in 3 centuries, they're not paying protection money to raiders. Because the raiders are gone? Because the humans destroyed them, Valana confirmed. The trade routes in Veltar space are completely clear. No pirate attacks, no tribute demands, number protection fees. They're calling it the most peaceful period in their recorded history. She pulled up economic data from across the galaxy. Similar reports were coming in from dozens of star systems. Ancient tribute relationships were ending as the criminal organizations that enforced them simply disappeared. Doctor, Bright Star Wisdom said slowly, what happens when the rest of the galaxy realizes what humans are capable of? Valana considered the question carefully. I think we're about to find out, she said. The Krillian Empire just issued a galaxy-wide statement. They're mobilizing their entire fleet for a punitive expedition against human space. How many ships? 12,000 warships, including their planet-killer dreadnoughts. Valana looked at her assistant with an expression of deep concern. It's the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. And the humans? According to our intelligence, they have approximately 400 ships. Valana paused, staring at the numbers. The Krillians outnumber them 30-1. Bright Star Wisdom's light flickered nervously. Perhaps the humans will finally learn to negotiate. Valana pulled up the latest communication from human space. It was a message from Admiral Maria Santos, commander of the Human Defense Fleet. The message was only 5 words long, but it made Valana's blood run cold. Good. Now we know where they all are. She showed the message to her assistant. I don't think humans know how to negotiate with murderers, she said quietly. I think we're about to witness something the galaxy has never seen before. What's that? A species that would rather fight impossible odds than submit to evil. Valana's voice carried a mixture of admiration and terror. The question is, will there be any humans left alive when it's over? Across the galaxy, every major government was asking the same question. And in the depths of space, 12,000 Krillian warships began their journey toward human territory. Confident that they were about to teach the galaxy's newest species a lesson about the price of resistance. But in human space, something was stirring. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would change the balance of power forever. Warlord Scaranash stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Death's Embrace. His scarred hide bore the marks of 8,000 years of conquest, and his 4 massive arms gestured violently as he spoke to his assembled war chiefs. No species has ever dared to fight us, he roared, his voice echoing through the bridge. For 8,000 years, every intelligent race in this galaxy has learned to fear the Krillian Empire. They pay tribute, they submit, and they survive. But these humans... He slammed one massive fist into the command console, denting the metal. These humans think they can destroy our raiders and face no consequences. They think they can murder Krillian warriors and continue their pathetic existence. The assembled war chiefs, each commanding their own section of the vast fleet, growled their agreement. Their ships stretched across space in all directions, armada of destruction unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 12,000 warships, Scarnash continued, spreading his arms wide. The largest military force in galactic history. Every raider clan has contributed ships. Every pirate lord has pledged their crews. The humans will learn what happens when someone defies the natural order. War Chief Graco, a smaller but vicious Krillian with acid scars covering half his face, stepped forward. "What are your orders, Supreme Warlord?" "Total extermination," Skarnash replied without hesitation. "We will not just defeat the humans, we will erase them from existence. Every human world will burn. Every human ship will become scrap metal. Every human life will end in screaming agony." He activated a holographic display showing human space. "But first, we will give them one chance to surrender. Let the galaxy witness Krillian mercy before they witness Krillian wrath." Meanwhile, in the emergency chambers of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species gathered in desperate session. The news of the Krillian mobilization had spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. "We must intervene," pleaded Ambassador Zethkri, his forearms waving frantically. "The humans don't understand what they've started. The Krillians will not just destroy humanity, they will be enraged beyond reason. They may turn their anger on all of us." The mollusk representative's tentacles writhed with anxiety. "My species has calculated the economic impact. If the Krillians conquer human space, they will demand triple tribute from everyone to cover their war costs. Our entire economy will collapse." "The mathematics are clear," added the robotic delegate from the machine worlds. 12,000 Krillian ships versus 400 human vessels. The outcome is predetermined. Human extinction probability, 99.7%. A communication request came through from human space. Ambassador Sarah Chun appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber. "Ambassador Chun," Zethkri said urgently, "you must listen to reason. The Krillian Empire has mobilized their entire fleet. 12,000 ships are heading toward your territory. You must negotiate immediately." Sarah's image remained calm. "We're aware of their fleet movements." "Then surely you understand the hopelessness of your situation," the crystal being from Altair chimed. "No species can survive against such odds. You must surrender and accept reasonable terms." "What terms would those be?" Sarah asked. The mollusk representative spoke up. "Surrender your military, pay reparations for the destroyed Krillian ships, and agree to standard tribute arrangements. The Krillians are angry, but they can be reasoned with if you show proper submission. And if we refuse, then your species dies," Zethkri said bluntly. "Every human world will be destroyed. Your entire civilization will become a cautionary tale for the rest of the galaxy." Sarah was quiet for a moment, her face thoughtful. "I see. And after humanity is destroyed, what prevents the Krillians from deciding that your tribute payments are insufficient? What stops them from demanding more and more until your own species becomes slaves?" The chamber fell silent. Several aliens looked uncomfortable. "The Krillians understand the value of long-term stability," Zethkri said, though his voice sounded less certain than before. "They have maintained the current system for millennia, because no one ever fought back," Sarah pointed out. "Now they know that resistance is possible. After they finish with us, don't you think they'll wonder which of you might get similar ideas?" Before anyone could respond, Sarah continued. "But that's your decision to make. As for humanity, we've made our choice." "Which is?" the machine delegate asked. "We're going to fight." The hologram of Admiral Maria Santos appeared next to Sarah. She was a weathered woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. "The Krillian fleet will arrive in human space in 6 days," Maria said calmly. "We'll be ready for them." Zethkri made a sound of pure frustration. 400 ships against 12,000. "This isn't courage, it's suicide." "Maybe," Maria admitted. "But we've been preparing for this possibility since we first encountered galactic civilization. You see, we studied your history. We learned about the tribute system, about the raiders and slavers that prey on peaceful species. We decided that would never happen to us. What could you possibly have prepared that would make a difference? The crystal being asked. Maria smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. You'll find out when they get here. The connection ended, leaving the aliens staring at empty space. They're insane, Zethkri whispered. Completely insane. But in the depths of space, strange things were happening in human territory. Massive space stations that had been classified as research facilities suddenly came online. Ships that looked nothing like anything in the galactic database began emerging from hidden shipyards. Deep space monitoring stations picked up unusual energy signatures from human worlds. Weapons tests, perhaps, or some kind of industrial activity. Whatever it was happening on a scale that didn't match humanity's supposed technological level. The Krillian fleet continued its advance, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Scaranash spent his time planning the victory celebration he would hold in the ruins of Earth's capital city. But on the human world of Titan Station, Admiral Santos stood in a command center buried miles beneath the surface. Around her, technicians monitored displays showing the approaching enemy fleet. Project Damocles is fully operational, her chief of staff reported. All platforms are in position and ready for activation. Quantum warfare frigates are standing by, added another officer. The new stealth systems are performing beyond expectations. And the AI tactical networks? Online and ready. They've been running combat simulations since we detected the Krillian mobilization. Santos nodded, her face grim but determined. 6 days, she said quietly. In 6 days, we'll find out if humanity's bet on superior technology over superior numbers was the right choice. She looked at the tactical display showing 12,000 red dots representing Krillian ships. Then she looked at the 400 blue dots representing the human fleet. Signal all ships, she ordered. Prepare for Operation Thunderbolt. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you murder innocent humans. In space, the largest military confrontation in galactic history was about to begin. Two completely different philosophies of warfare were about to clash. The Krillians believed in overwhelming force and intimidation through numbers. The humans believed in something else entirely. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see which approach would prove superior when the shooting started. The Krillian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory like a storm of death and metal. 12,000 warships arranged themselves in massive battle formations. Their hulls scarred from countless raids and their weapons charged for destruction. Warlord Scaranash stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display with savage satisfaction. Send a surrender demand, he ordered. Let the humans see what faces them before they die. The message broadcast across all frequencies. Surrender immediately or face total extermination. You have 1 hour to comply. The human response came back in 30 seconds. It was not words, but weapons fire. The first surprise came from seemingly empty space. Massive kinetic bombardment platforms that had been invisible to Krillian sensors suddenly revealed themselves. Projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed began hammering the Krillian formation from impossible angles. Where did those come from? Roared War Chief Grackle, his command ship shuddering under impact. The second surprise appeared as human. Ships began decloaking throughout the Krillian fleet. Ships that shouldn't exist, using technology that shouldn't work. Quantum warfare frigates phased through Krillian shields as if they were made of nothing, appearing inside enemy formations to deliver devastating close-range attacks. This is impossible, Scaranash bellowed as alarms screamed throughout his flagship. Their technology level is barely adequate for space travel. But the worst surprise was yet to come. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Every vessel was exactly where it needed to be, every attack timed to the microsecond. The Krillians, who had won battles through fear and overwhelming numbers, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that fought like a precision instrument. Admiral Santos watched from her command center as the battle unfolded exactly as the AI tactical networks had predicted. Phase 2, she ordered calmly. Across the battlefield, human torpedo ships launched their payloads. But these weren't ordinary weapons. They were antimatter warheads with quantum guidance systems, each one capable of tracking and destroying targets through dimensional barriers. A Krillian dreadnought, the size of a small city, simply vanished in a sphere of expanding energy. Then another. Then a dozen more. Retreat! Scaranash screamed into his communications array. All ships retreat immediately. But the human ships anticipated this as well. Faster-than-light interdiction fields activated around the entire battle zone. The Krillians found themselves trapped, unable to escape to hyperspace. How are they doing this? Grakal demanded over the communications channel. His ship was missing half its hull and venting atmosphere. Our 400 ships defeating 12,000. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Valana, monitoring the battle from her observatory, finally understood what she was seeing. Artificial intelligence, she whispered to her assistant. They're using AI to coordinate their entire fleet like a single organism. Every other species in the galaxy used artificial intelligence for calculations and logistics. The idea of giving AI direct control over weapons had always been rejected as too dangerous. But humans had done exactly that. The human tactical AI didn't think like biological minds. It processed information faster than any living brain could follow. It saw patterns and opportunities that would be invisible to organic intelligence. Most importantly, it could coordinate hundreds of ships with perfect precision. The Krillians fought as individuals, each ship captain making their own decisions based on limited information. The humans fought as one vast mind with hundreds of bodies. Focus fire on their command ship. Scaranash ordered desperately. Kill their admiral and they'll surrender. But the AI had predicted this strategy as well. Decoy signals made it impossible to identify which human ship actually contained the command structure. Every vessel acted as if it were the flagship. Meanwhile, human ships continued their methodical destruction of the Krillian fleet. Relativistic projectiles punched through armor that had stopped conventional weapons for millennia. Quantum torpedoes bypassed shields entirely. Energy weapons, based on technologies the Krillians had never seen, turned their massive dreadnoughts into expanding clouds of plasma. The battle that the Krillians had expected to last days was effectively over in 6 hours. Scaranash stood on his damaged bridge, staring at tactical displays showing the complete destruction of his invasion force. Of the 12,000 ships that had entered human space, fewer than 1,000 remained. And those survivors were scattered, damaged, and completely demoralized. Impossible, he whispered. 8,000 years of conquest. 8,000 years of galactic dominance. How did it end like this? A human ship appeared on his main screen. It was sleek and deadly, with weapon systems that hurt to look at directly. A communication request came through. Admiral Santos appeared as a hologram, her expression calm and professional. Warlord Scaranash. I am Admiral Maria Santos of the Terran Defense Force. You are completely defeated. Order your remaining ships to surrender immediately. Scaranash's 4 massive arms shook with rage. I am the supreme warlord of the Krillian Empire. I do not surrender to anyone. Then you'll join the rest of your fleet, Santos replied matter-of-factly. We have no problem with that option either. For the first time in his 8,000 years of existence, Scaranash felt genuine fear. Not fear of death, which he had faced many times, but fear of something much worse. Fear of complete irrelevance. What do you want? He asked, his voice much quieter than before, Unconditional surrender of all Krillian forces, Santos replied. Complete cessation of all raiding activities. Release of all slaves and prisoners. Reparations for every civilian ship your empire has attacked in the last century. And if I refuse? Santos gestured to the tactical display, showing the debris field that had once been the largest military force in galactic history. Then we finish what you started. Scaranash looked around his bridge at the faces of his surviving crew. They had followed him through countless battles, trusted him to lead them to victory and glory. Now they looked at him with something he had never seen before: doubt. You don't understand, he said desperately. The Krillian way of life depends on tribute from weaker species. We don't know how to live any other way. Then you'll learn, Santos replied firmly. Or you'll die. Your choice. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations and deep space observatories had watched the entire battle unfold. The impossible had happened. A force of 400 human ships had completely destroyed 12,000 Krillian raiders. The news spread faster than light itself. Ancient tribute arrangements began collapsing as species realized they no longer needed to fear Krillian retaliation. Trade routes that had been closed for millennia suddenly became safe again, but the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Admiral, one of Santos's officers, reported, "We're receiving communication requests from 47 different species. They all want to know the same thing, which is whether humanity is accepting new applications for protection agreements." Santos smiled grimly. "Tell them we'll consider any species that respects civilian life and peaceful trade. But make sure they understand one thing." "What's that?" "Humanity doesn't negotiate with murderers. Anyone who preys on innocent civilians will face the same fate as the Krillians." In his damaged flagship, Scaranash finally accepted the inevitable. He activated his fleet communications one last time. "All Krillian ships, this is the Supreme Warlord. I order you to surrender to human forces." The words felt like poison in his mouth. But for the first time in his species' history, a Krillian leader was choosing submission over extinction. The age of galactic piracy was over. The age of human protection had begun, but this was only the beginning. News had begun arriving from the galactic rim about something called the Devourer Fleet, an ancient threat that had been driving civilizations toward the galactic core for millions of years. For the first time in recorded history, someone was preparing to fight back instead of running away. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Battle of Krillian's end, the galaxy looked completely different. Dr. Valana stood in her observatory, reviewing reports that seemed too good to be true. "The transformation is remarkable," she told her assistant, Bright Star Wisdom. "For the first time in recorded history, civilian ships are traveling freely without paying protection money to pirates." The crystal being pulsed with amazement. "The economic data is extraordinary. Trade volumes have increased by 340% since the Krillians were defeated. Species that haven't spoken to each other in centuries are now establishing new trade routes." Lalana pulled up a star chart showing shipping lanes across the galaxy. Where once there had been dangerous red zones marking pirate territory, now there were peaceful green corridors protected by human patrol fleets. The Veltar Confederacy redirected their entire annual tribute budget to infrastructure projects, she said with wonder in her voice. "They're building new universities, hospitals, and research stations. Their scientists say they've made more progress in the last 6 months than in the previous 100 years." Similar stories were coming in from across the galaxy. The Mollusk Collective had ended their traditional flesh tribute payments to various raider clans and were now using those resources to explore previously dangerous star systems. The Altarian Archive was documenting new scientific discoveries at an unprecedented rate. But The most dramatic changes were happening in the former Krillian territories. What's the status of the rehabilitation programs? Valana asked. Bright star wisdom dimmed slightly, indicating concern. Difficult but progressing. Many former Krillian raiders have joined human-supervised work crews, helping to repair damage they caused over the centuries. Some are actually adapting to peaceful labor. And the ones who refuse? Approximately 3,000 former raiders have rejected all offers of rehabilitation. They formed small pirate groups and tried to continue their old ways. With what result? Complete elimination within days of their first attacks, the crystal being replied. Human response fleets appear to know where every hostile ship is located at all times. This was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the new galactic order. Humanity's surveillance and response capabilities seemed almost supernatural. No pirate attack went unanswered, no slave ship escaped detection. No raider base remained hidden for long. A communication alert interrupted their discussion. Ambassador Sarah Chun appeared as a hologram in the center of the laboratory. "Dr. Valana," Sarah said politely, "I hope I'm not interrupting important research." "Not at all, Ambassador. How can I help you?" "I wanted to inform you personally that humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council." Valana's 6 eyes widened in surprise. "Withdrawing? But why? You've achieved everything you wanted. Piracy is practically extinct, trade is flourishing, and dozens of species have requested human protection." Sarah smiled sadly. "That's exactly why we're leaving. The Council's consensus-based approach to criminal enterprises is fundamentally incompatible with human values. We can't participate in an organization that views the systematic murder of civilians as a negotiable issue. But without the Council, how will galactic disputes be resolved?" "We're establishing a new organization," Sarah replied. "The Terran Accord. Any species that respects civilian life and peaceful trade is welcome to join. Our founding principle is simple. Anyone who preys upon innocent populations will be eliminated completely." Bright star wisdom pulsed rapidly with curiosity. "How many species have requested membership?" 43 so far, Sarah said, including some former council members who are tired of appeasing murderers. After the communication ended, Valana and her assistant sat in thoughtful silence. The galaxy was dividing into 2 camps, those who preferred the old system of negotiated tribute and controlled violence, and those who wanted the complete elimination of predatory behavior. "Doctor," Bright Star Wisdom said slowly, "there are reports coming in from the Galactic Rim. Something about the Devourer fleet." Valana felt a chill run through her body. The Devourer fleet was ancient legend made real, a massive armada of unknown origin that had been driving civilizations toward the galactic core for millions of years. Every few thousand years, entire species would arrive as refugees, fleeing from something so terrible they would rather abandon their homeworlds than fight it. What kind of reports? Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures moving in from beyond the galactic edge. The signatures match historical descriptions of Devourer technology. Valana's hands trembled as she accessed the classified files. For millions of years, the standard response to the Devourer threat had been simple: run. Evacuate entire star systems, abandon territories, flee toward the galactic center, and hope the Devourers will be satisfied with the empty worlds left behind. Have the humans been informed? Yes. Admiral Santos received the initial reports 3 days ago. And their response? Bright Star Wisdom's light flickered with something that might have been admiration. They've begun mobilizing the Terran Defense Fleet toward the Galactic Rim. Valana stared at her assistant in shock. They're going to fight? Apparently so. They've also sent requests to all Terran Accord members for additional ships and resources. For a moment, Valana couldn't speak. The idea of actually fighting the Devourers was so alien to galactic thinking that it took her time to process the concept. Have they seen the historical records? She asked finally. Do they understand what they're facing? Admiral Santos specifically requested all available data on Devourer capabilities and previous encounters. Bright Star Wisdom reported. Her response was, quote, "Good intelligence. Now we know what we're up against." B'Elanna activated her communication system and sent an emergency request to speak with Admiral Santos. Within minutes, the human officer appeared as a hologram. "Doctor," Santos said politely, "I assume this is about the Devourer situation." "Admiral, you cannot be serious about fighting them," B'Elanna said urgently. "For millions of years, the only successful strategy against the Devourers has been evacuation. No species has ever survived direct confrontation with them." "No species has ever tried," Santos replied calmly, "because it's suicide. The historical records show fleets of hundreds of thousands of ships, weapons that can destroy entire star systems. Technology so advanced, it might as well be magic." Santos nodded thoughtfully. "The reports are certainly intimidating, but they all have one thing in common, which is every species that encountered the Devourers was already demoralized by centuries of paying tribute to pirates and raiders. They were used to submission, to buying their way out of conflicts. When faced with an enemy that couldn't be negotiated with or appeased, they had no psychological framework for resistance." B'Elanna realized where this conversation was heading. But humans do. Humans have never learned to submit to predators, Santos confirmed. "We've spent our entire evolutionary history as persistence hunters. We don't negotiate with threats to our species' survival. We eliminate them. This isn't a raider fleet, Admiral. This is something that has been driving civilizations to extinction since before recorded history." Santa's smile was cold and determined. Then it's time someone put a stop to it. The communication ended, leaving B'Elanna staring at empty space. "Doctor," Bright Star Wisdom said quietly, "do you think they have a chance?" B'Elanna considered the question carefully. 6 months ago, she would have said it was impossible. But 6 months ago, she would also have said that defeating the Krillian Empire was impossible. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But for the first time in galactic history, we're going to find out what happens when an apex predator species decides to fight instead of flee." Across human space, massive fleets were assembling. Not just human ships, but vessels from 43 different species that had joined the Terran Accord. Species that were tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of sacrificing their people to appease things that couldn't be reasoned with. The largest military force in galactic history was taking shape. But this time, it wasn't built for conquest or intimidation. It was built for a single purpose: to face the ancient terror from beyond the galactic rim and either defeat it or die trying. For millions of years, the galaxy had lived in fear of the Devourer fleet. That was about to change in deep space. Something vast and hungry was approaching. But for the first time in its endless existence, it was about to encounter prey that refused to run. The final test of humanity's philosophy was about to begin.